Carter Lane, 38, isn't just a fashion CEO in Los Angeles. He's a creative genius who's built an empire of glamour, yet lives alone, haunted by the memory of a love he let go. One sunlit afternoon, at a bustling accessory fair, a little girl at a market stall stops him cold. "Daddy?" she says, her voice light but piercing. Chloe, 10, is bright-eyed and clever, selling handmade hair ties with delicate care. But it's not just her voice, it's her face, her craft, her spirit. They all echo someone Carter once knew, Julia. Shaken, Carter investigates. Could Chloe be his daughter? Why would Julia, once so full of fire and promise, disappear without a word? The answer lies not with her, but with Diane, Carter's manipulative mother who forged a cruel lie 10 years ago. A single email, never seen, destroyed a future. Now, Carter is racing against time, not to launch a new collection, but to win back what truly matters. As he skips a fashion show for a little girl's art stall, and as Chloe ties a ribbon around his wrist, a symbol of hope and forgiveness, one truth becomes clear. Family isn't stitched in luxury or legacy. It's tied, quietly, in trust. Will Julia ever believe he didn't walk away? Can Carter undo the harm Diane caused? Or has the thread of love unraveled too far? Subscribe to see this heartfelt story unfold, where one simple hair tie could bind a broken family forever. The wind swept through Melrose Avenue, carrying the scent of roasted almonds and fresh linen from the accessory fair stalls that had taken over the corner lot. Carter Lane adjusted his sunglasses and pulled his leather coat tighter, weaving between clusters of weekend shoppers. Even in anonymity, he moved with elegance. Heads turned. They always did. His atelier was only 2 blocks away, glass, steel, and curated opulence. But today, Carter wasn't going there. He needed distraction. His calendar said collection preview, but his heart wasn't in it. Not since the day he saw her name scribbled in the margins of an old sketchbook. Julia. It had been 11 years. And yet... He paused at a handmade booth. Colorful, messy, undeniably charming. Hair ties in every fabric imaginable were clipped neatly to a board shaped like a heart. A girl stood behind the table, her apron smudged with paint and glitter, her curly brown hair tied back with one of her own creations. She looked up, her eyes widened. "Daddy?" Carter froze. People moved around him, unaware that time had just slammed to a halt. He blinked. "What did you say?" The girl smiled shyly, like she'd practiced it. "Sorry. You just look like someone I saw in a picture." Still shaken, he cleared his throat. "What's your name?" "Chloe," she said proudly, holding up a tiny pink scrunchie. "I made this one. Want to buy it?" He stared at the scrunchie. Pale pink silk, stitched with care. It looked familiar. Too familiar. He pulled out a 20 and handed it to her. "Keep the change." She beamed. "Thanks, mister." Carter took a slow breath and backed away. But before he could disappear into the crowd, a woman's voice snapped his attention like a whip. "Chloe, stay close." His heart stopped. That voice. He turned. There she was, Julia. Her hair was shorter now, a bit darker. She wore no makeup, just sunglasses pushed up on her head and a firm expression carved by years of surviving. Her gaze locked on him, and in that instant, recognition flared. Julia stiffened. Carter's voice cracked. "Julia?" Her lips tightened. She didn't speak. "I didn't know." "You shouldn't be here," she said, cutting him off. "Please leave." Chloe looked between them, confused. "Mommy? Do you know him?" Julia stepped in front of her daughter. "Just a stranger, honey." The words landed like glass shattering inside him. A stranger. After everything. He stood there, dumbfounded, until Julia ushered Chloe back to the booth. He wanted to follow, to ask 1,000 questions, But something in Julia's face warned him, not here. Back in his penthouse, Carter stared at the pink scrunchie in his hand. He hadn't noticed it before, but the stitchwork along the edge, tiny loops shaped like musical notes, was something only Julia ever used. A personal touch. She'd once sewn the same pattern onto a scarf she gave him on his 27th birthday. He sat down, fingers trembling. He hadn't seen Julia in a decade. They ended suddenly, brutally, after a misunderstanding he barely remembered. Some business trip, some email he never replied to. Diane had said Julia moved on, that she never wanted kids, that she wasn't right for his legacy. But Chloe's eyes, they mirrored his. He picked up his phone. For the first time in years, he dialed Diane. She answered on the second ring. "Darling, are you all right? Did you ever read me that email Julia sent? Back then, after Milan." A pause. "What does this have to do with—" "Just answer me." Another pause, colder this time. "No, I deleted it." The silence was suffocating. "I thought I was protecting you," she added quickly. She wasn't part of the vision. He hung up. The scrunchie sat quietly in his hand, light as air, but heavy with the weight of a truth unraveling. And, somewhere in the chaos of Los Angeles, a 10-year-old girl had just asked a stranger if he was her dad. The morning after the fair, Carter sat alone in his studio, surrounded by walls of silk, sequins, and sketches that once thrilled him. But today, none of it mattered. He held the pink scrunchie in his hand again, turning it over slowly. That looping stitch, music notes dancing along the edge, was unmistakable. Julia's touch. Outside the window, Los Angeles was alive with motion, but Carter felt like he was standing still. He picked up his phone and scrolled until he found what he needed. Accessory Makers Market, Saturdays. His car pulled up 10 minutes later. The market had already begun to stir. Bright awnings, homemade booths, and kids running between stalls. He moved slowly, scanning each table. Then he saw her, Chloe, standing on a stool behind a folding table, arranging her hair ties with proud precision. He hesitated. Watching her from a distance, he saw it again, not just her face, her posture, the way she tilted her head while working. It was Julia, years ago, threading beads in his old apartment. A soft voice broke his thoughts. "You came back." Carter looked down. Chloe was smiling, holding up a new scrunchie, blue this time, with tiny silver stars stitched along the hem. "I made this one last night," she said. "Want to see?" He knelt beside the table. "It's beautiful. You're really talented." Chloe beamed. "My mom taught me. She says good stitching tells the truth. No hiding in thread." Carter swallowed hard. "She sounds wise." Chloe nodded. "She is. And tough, too. She makes people pay up front," she added with a giggle. "No freebies." "I'd never ask for one," he said gently. "What's your mom's name?" "Julia. Julia Davis," she replied without hesitation. His heart sank. That name. He hadn't heard it spoken out loud in over 10 years. "Do you know your dad?" Carter asked carefully. Chloe's smile faltered. She looked down at her shoelaces, fiddling with the edge of the table. "No, Mom says he left before I was born, that he didn't want us." He exhaled slowly. "What if... maybe he didn't know?" Chloe looked up, eyes narrowing. "But why wouldn't he come look?" He didn't answer. Couldn't. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out the pink scrunchie. "This one? I kept it." Chloe's expression brightened. "Really?" "Really," he said. "It means something." Before she could say more, Julia appeared behind the booth, arms crossed, lips tight. Her voice was low. "Chloe, inside. Now." Chloe looked between them, reluctant. But now. She grabbed her basket of hair ties and stepped behind the curtain of the tent. Julia didn't look at her. She looked straight at Carter. "I asked you to leave yesterday," she said. You had no right to come back. I needed to know. You knew what you needed, she snapped. And it wasn't me. Or her. Carter stood. I didn't walk away. I never got that message. Diane said you moved on, that you wanted nothing to do with me. Julia laughed bitterly. That's rich. She told me you didn't want kids, that I'd embarrass the family. Then she sent me a reply. Cold. Final. His chest tightened. I never saw any reply. She stepped closer. Don't lie, Carter. Not to me. I'm not. He reached into his coat and pulled out his phone, pulling up an old email folder. Nothing from you. Ever. If she sent something, it was never from me. Julia's face shifted, just slightly. Doubt cracked the edge of her anger, but only for a moment. You can spin it how you want. But Chloe's my daughter, not yours. You don't just drop in a decade later and— I'm not walking away this time, he said, voice steady. Julia didn't respond. Instead, she reached over, snatched the scrunchie from his hand and whispered, Keep your memories. They stitch nothing. She disappeared into the tent. Carter stood alone. And for the first time in years, he realized the fight had only just begun. The elevator doors opened into the sleek, minimalist heart of Lane Atelier. Floor-to-ceiling windows, custom mannequins, and rows of mood boards lined with pins and fabric swatches. But Carter wasn't looking at any of it. He walked straight to his office, eyes locked on the framed photo that had always sat on the shelf. A photo Diane had insisted be taken. Him, beside a mannequin wearing his first award-winning design, expression blank. That was the image she wanted the world to see. Controlled, powerful, polished. He opened his laptop and searched. Julia Davis, Los Angeles. A few entries popped up. Handmade accessory workshops, market listings, a small Etsy page. No interviews, no photos, just quiet work. Carter leaned back in his chair, heart heavy. She had stayed hidden, small on purpose. His mother had said Julia wasn't built for the spotlight. Maybe Julia had believed it too. His phone buzzed. It was Diane. Carter, darling, she said, warm and polished. You missed the branding meeting. I need to talk to you about something that happened years ago. Is this about Julia? She said casually, too casually. I saw your face on some blog. People are whispering. Don't spiral. You lied, Carter said. You told her I didn't want kids. You deleted her email. A beat of silence. She didn't belong in your future, Diane said. I protected you from chaos, from scandal. She protected a child, he snapped. Our child. Diane's voice sharpened. You built an empire, Carter. You think you could have done that with a baby in a one-bedroom apartment? He stood, his voice rising. That baby is my daughter. There was another pause, colder this time. Then you need to decide who you are, Carter. A father, or a legacy. The line went dead. He stared at the screen, fists clenched. Later that day, Carter stood outside a brick storefront in Echo Park. The sign above read, Thread and Light, Handmade Accessories by Julia Davis. The windows were filled with scrunchies, beaded clips, small felt creatures stitched by hand. He stepped inside. It smelled like lavender and glue. Julia looked up from the back, startled. How did you find this place? I looked, he said, because I had to. She didn't answer, just kept stitching. The silence stretched. I talked to my mother, he added. She admitted it. She kept your message from me. Julia froze. She said you didn't belong in my future, that you'd ruin my name. Julia set the scrunchie down slowly. Her voice was soft but firm. And what did you believe? I didn't know what to believe, he admitted. I was 27. She controlled everything. My PR, my emails, my life. And now? She asked, meeting his eyes. I don't want to miss any more time, he said. I'm not asking for everything, just a start. Julia studied him, then turned and opened a drawer. She pulled out a small sketchbook, Chloe's. She draws you, she said, every week. He opened it. Page after page, crayon drawings of a tall man in a suit holding hands with a girl in a pink dress. The stitching pattern, the same musical loops, decorated the bottom of the pages. She kept asking questions, Julia whispered. So I told her you were someone from a dream. Someone who left. Carter's voice cracked. I didn't leave. I was shut out. They stood in silence. Then Julia said, She deserves to know the truth, but not the headlines, not the pressure. She won't get any of that from me, Carter promised. Just the man who should have been there from the start. Julia walked over to the window. She has a market booth again this weekend. Come by. Don't say anything yet. Just show up. I will. As Carter stepped back out into the light, he held the sketchbook to his chest. Each drawing, a thread, and now, slowly, he was learning how to stitch them back together. The Saturday market bloomed beneath the clear sky, rows of booths lining the community park like ribbons stretched across green. Children ran between tables, voices bright, while parents sipped iced coffee and browsed handmade crafts. Near the fountain, Chloe stood behind her stall, organizing colorful scrunchies on a corkboard shaped like a butterfly. Carter approached slowly, hands in his coat pockets, unsure of how to stand or breathe or speak. He wasn't here as Carter Lane, fashion CEO. He was here for Chloe, and for the truth. She spotted him and lit up. Hey, you came back. He smiled. Told you I would. She pointed to a new row. I added a star collection. See this one? She held up a navy blue scrunchie with gold thread looping through the middle. I call it Midnight Stitch. He took it gently. It's perfect. Chloe leaned forward. Wanna help me sell today? He blinked. Me? Yeah, you've got the face for it, she said, giggling. People love a good suit. He chuckled. All right, but you're the boss. She handed him a price list and a small coin box, then pointed to the crowd. Go charm the moms. They spent the next hour working side by side. Carter complimented grandmothers. Chloe tied bows for toddlers. Their rhythm was easy, like they'd done it for years. Every now and then, he caught her glancing up at him, curiosity flickering behind her grin. At one point, she whispered, You remind me of someone. My mom says I shouldn't say who. He met her gaze. It's okay. I think I know. She looked away quickly, fiddling with a pink ribbon. Sometimes I imagine my dad walks by and just forgets who I am. His heart cracked. Some dads don't know they're supposed to be looking. Chloe nodded, then held out a tiny velvet pouch. This is for you. He opened it. Inside was a black scrunchie with silver music notes stitched along the edges, her signature. I call this one Second Chance, she said. It's the only one like it. Before he could thank her, Julia stepped into view. She froze when she saw them. Chloe waved. Mom, look who helped today. Julia's eyes went from her daughter to Carter, resting on the scrunchie in his hand. Her jaw clenched. Carter stood. I didn't say anything. I just showed up. Julia crossed her arms. And charmed your way into her heart? I followed your rules, he said gently, and I bought 7 scrunchies. Chloe skipped ahead toward another booth. Julia stepped closer, voice low. She's already dreaming up versions of you, she whispered. Don't add color if you're going to fade out again. I'm not fading, he said, but she deserves more than a ghost story. Julia's voice softened. She made that black one last night, said it needed to be strong and soft, like a thread that won't break. Carter looked down at the scrunchie, thumb brushing over the music notes. She doesn't know how right she is. Julia studied his face. You're different. I've had 10 years to become the man I should have been, he said. Let me prove that to her, and to you. Chloe returned with 2 cupcakes. We got chocolate and something green. I'm scared of the green. They all laughed. Julia took the green one with mock bravery. It's probably matcha. Chloe wrinkled her nose. It smells like grass. They sat on the bench by the booth, sharing bites and watching shoppers drift past. For a moment, it was simple, quiet, possible. Carter looked at Chloe and whispered, "Thank you. For this." She tilted her head. "For what?" He held up the scrunchie. "For the second chance." She smiled, proud and unknowing. But Julia saw everything. And something in her expression, just for a flicker, softened into hope. Monday morning arrived with a hum of espresso machines and cutting scissors inside Lane Atelier. But Carter didn't touch his espresso. He sat in his office, staring at the Chloe's black scrunchie on the desk. Silver musical notes stitched into soft velvet. It looked fragile, but it held firm. He ran his thumb over it. The past few days had shaken something loose in him. The fashion world around him buzzed. Editors waiting for looks, interns darting around like bees, but all he could think about was a 10-year-old girl who stitched hope into thread. He opened a drawer and pulled out a photo. Julia, at 25, sitting on a windowsill, sketching ribbons on napkins. He had taken it the morning after their first market together. She'd made $200. He'd fallen in love. He leaned back, eyes closed. How had he not seen it back then? The depth, the fire, the family they almost had. His intercom buzzed. "Mr. Lane," said his assistant, "your mother is here." He straightened. "Send her in." Diane walked in, pristine in a tailored cream coat, every step rehearsed. "You canceled the editorial shoot," she said without sitting. "Is this about her again?" "I met Chloe," Carter said simply. She hesitated. "That child? She's not—" "She's mine," he interrupted. "And I'm not going to pretend she doesn't exist." Diane folded her arms. "You worked your whole life for this brand. You don't just drop everything for some child with ribbon stalls." "She's not some child," Carter said. "She's my daughter, and she's brilliant." Diane's voice sharpened. "You're risking your image. Investors don't like drama. I don't care what they like. I care what she needs." Diane moved closer. "You're being emotional, reckless. Do you know how hard I fought to protect your name from women like Julia?" Carter stood, jaw clenched. "You didn't protect me. You erased a part of me, and you erased her." Diane's silence was icy. He picked up the scrunchie, holding it between them. "She made this. For me. Without even knowing the truth." Diane looked at it like it was nothing more than a rag. "You can walk out now, or sit down and listen," Carter said. "But either way, I'm not walking away from them." Diane turned without a word and left, heels clicking like gavel strikes down the hallway. That night, Carter stood outside Julia's apartment. It was small, warm-looking, with ivy curling along the gate. He rang the bell. Julia opened the door, eyes guarded. "Is something wrong?" He took a breath. "No, but something's been wrong for 10 years. He handed her a folded envelope. Inside, a copy of an email, the one she'd never seen. She unfolded it, eyes scanning quickly. Her breath caught. "I didn't send that," she whispered. "I know. Diane did. She created it. I finally found it on a backup server she forgot to clear." Julia's hand trembled. "She said you never replied, that you wanted me gone." "I never saw it," Carter said. "If I had, I would have been there. Every step." Tears welled in her eyes but didn't fall. "I know it doesn't fix things," he added, "but I want to be in Chloe's life, however you'll allow it." She nodded, slow but sure. "She's curious. She doesn't say it, but she wants to know you." "I want to earn that," he said. "Not by buying her things, but by showing up." Julia looked down at the scrunchie tied around her wrist. Black velvet. music stitched in silver. Chloe had given it to her days ago. She hadn't taken it off since. "You'll come to the next market?" she asked softly. "I'll be there," he said. "Every time." Behind them, a light flicked on upstairs. Chloe's silhouette appeared in the window, holding something in her hand. A new scrunchie, woven in blue and gold. And just like that, the thread between them tightened. The next Saturday, the sky threatened rain, but the market still buzzed with life. Carter arrived early, carrying 2 lattes and a box of blueberry muffins. He spotted Julia setting up her booth beneath a striped canopy, boxes stacked high with Chloe's colorful creations. She looked up, surprised. "You're early." He held up the muffins. "Thought I'd earn my place as assistant again." Julia smirked. "She'll make you sort the entire rainbow row." "Worth it," he said, handing her the coffee. Moments later, Chloe came skipping down the sidewalk, umbrella in hand, polka dot boots splashing through puddles. "You came," she said, eyes lighting up. "I wouldn't miss it," Carter said. "You look ready for a storm." "I am the storm," she said proudly, then handed him a red scrunchie. "Today's color." He examined it. Deep crimson with tiny white stitching, like petals circling the band. "Let me guess. Cherry bloom?" Chloe grinned. "Close. It's promise petal. Mom helped with the name." Julia looked away, pretending to straighten display cards. Carter helped set up, working in rhythm with Chloe as shoppers trickled in. The booth filled with laughter, little girls spinning in circles, their ponytails bouncing with Chloe's designs. By noon, Julia walked over and whispered, "I'm still figuring out what this looks like." He nodded. "Same." "But she's happy," Julia added. "She talks about you like she's known you forever." "I feel the same," Carter said, "like I'm stitching into something that already exists." They both glanced at Chloe, now helping a woman match clips to a child's hair color. Then Julia's expression darkened. "There's something you should know." Carter stiffened. "What is it?" "She didn't want to tell you, but Diane called me 2 nights ago." His stomach dropped. "What did she say?" "She offered me money," Julia said, voice hard, "to leave, to disappear again." Carter's face went pale. What?" "She said Chloe deserves stability, that I was reckless, that you'd come to your senses." He swallowed hard. "I had no idea. I told her I don't want her money, and I don't want her control." "I'll handle it," he said, jaw tight. Julia touched his arm. "No, we'll handle it." Their eyes met. This wasn't just about healing a wound anymore, it was about protecting what was finally beginning to grow. Later that evening, as the booths packed up, Chloe ran over with a small cardboard box. "Close your eyes." Carter obeyed. "Okay, open." Inside was a tiny frame, wooden, handmade, painted yellow. Inside, a drawing, a stick figure in a suit holding hands with a girl in boots. Between them, a scrunchie drawn in bright red. "That's us," Chloe said shyly. "I call it Thread Family." Carter stared at it, words failing. "It's okay if you don't want to hang it, or—" "No," he said softly, kneeling. "It's the best thing anyone's ever given me." She smiled, then wrapped her arms around his neck. Julia watched from a few feet away, silent. A flicker of pride and fear danced behind her eyes. As the rain began to fall, light and warm, the 3 of them ducked beneath the canopy. Carter looked at Chloe, then at Julia. "I want to help, really help, not just here." Julia raised an eyebrow. "You're not thinking court, are you?" "No," he said quickly. "No battles, just building." "Building what?" "A space. For her, for other kids like her. A workshop. Somewhere they can make, dream, and sell." Julia stared at him. "You do that?" "For her," he said. "For us." She looked away, but not to hide, just to hold back the tears. Carter looked down at the drawing again. Thread Family. A symbol of hope. drawn by the hands that had stitched their broken pieces back together. And maybe, just maybe, it was the start of something whole. The next morning, Carter sat on the floor of his penthouse, Chloe's framed thread family drawing propped against his knee. The city buzzed below, but all he could hear were her words from the night before. "This is us." He reached for his tablet, typing rapidly. "Permit request, community creative space, zoning rules, Echo Park, Youthcraft programs, LA. Half an hour later, he grabbed his keys and headed to Julia's place. She opened the door mid-braid, her fingers tangled in Chloe's curls. "You're early." "Had an idea," he said, holding up a folded paper. "What if I didn't just show up on weekends?" Julia gave him a wary look. "I mean it. I found a storefront just off Sunset. Vacant since April. I could buy it, turn it into a workshop. Chloe can help design it." Chloe beamed. "Like a scrunchy palace?" "Exactly," Carter smiled. "And you'd be the queen." Julia crossed her arms. "That's generous." "It's overdue." She studied him, then nodded slowly. "We can look at it this afternoon." Chloe jumped. "Can we bring paint? I want purple walls." Carter laughed. "You're in charge of the color board." That afternoon, they toured the space. Dusty floors, cracked walls, sunlight pouring through the front windows. But Chloe saw more. She ran through the open room, arms wide. "This'll be the stitching zone. And over there, display racks. Can we hang fairy lights?" Julia watched her daughter dream aloud, her eyes softening. "You've got her imagination." Carter looked over. "She's got your strength." As they paced the space, Julia pulled out a folded flyer from her coat. "This came in the mail today." It was from Lux Weekly, a feature. "Carter Lane's Fall Line Sneak Peek, October 3rd. Carter stiffened. "That's in 2 weeks. "You're really going to skip it?" she asked. He nodded. "My team can handle the preview. I'll be here, with you two." Julia searched his eyes. "That launch could change your trajectory." He held up Chloe's drawing. "So could this." Outside, Chloe had begun sketching a new hair tie idea on the wall with sidewalk chalk. "Look, it's called ribbon roots, like family roots, but cuter." Julia laughed. "She doesn't stop creating." "Neither did you," Carter said, "back when we were dreaming in coffee shops." Her smile faded. "Back when we thought love was enough." He stepped closer. "Maybe it still is, but this time, with trust stitched in." She looked away. "It's going to take time." "I've got time," he said. That night, Carter sat at his drafting table back at the atelier. Instead of designing gowns, he sketched floor plans, long tables for sewing, a corner nook for coloring, a chalkboard wall. He labeled it Chloe's Nest. A knock broke his focus. It was his assistant. "Mr. Lane, Diane's here again." He stood. "Send her in." Diane walked in like a gust of chilled perfume. "So it's true," she said. "You're canceling your own showcase." Carter nodded. "There's something more important now. You're throwing away everything we built. I'm building something better." She glanced at the sketch on his table. "For a girl with glitter and glue?" "For a girl with vision," he said, "and a mother who raised her alone." Diane's expression cracked, just slightly. "You were always emotional." "I was always yours," he said, "until now." She turned sharply, and for the first time, left without a word. Carter looked back at the sketch. On the corner, Chloe had drawn something the day before, a little heart with a thread running through it. He traced it with his finger, then whispered to the empty room, "We're almost home." The lights inside Lane Atelier flickered softly as Carter leaned over a file cabinet marked Archive, 2013. Dust coated the tabs. He hadn't opened this drawer in years. But Diane's silence after their last encounter still echoed too loud. Something in her eyes didn't sit right. He slid the folder labeled Personal, Julia Davis, onto his desk. Inside were press clippings, photo releases, and an email printout. Subject: Goodbye, Carter. He froze. The timestamp read September 15th, 2013. Same date Julia had told him she emailed him that she was pregnant. But the font was off. The phrasing felt strange, too composed. Not the woman he remembered. Passionate, raw, real. He checked the header. The sender, julia.d@leneatelier.to, not Julia's real address. His pulse spiked. Opening the metadata file attached, he scanned the internal routing tags. The message hadn't been external. It had been created from inside Lane Atelier's server. He clicked the author profile. Diane Lane. Carter stood slowly, the paper trembling in his hands. She hadn't just intercepted Julia's message, she'd written one herself, lied, covered it, buried a child behind a firewall. He stormed to the elevator and hit penthouse. Diane's residence. She opened the door in silk, glass in hand. You look flushed. He held up the paper. You forged this. She said nothing. You sent this fake email pretending to be her. You cut her off and you let me believe she left me. Her face tightened. You needed to focus. I needed the truth. Diane walked away, setting her glass down on a tray. She was pregnant. She was chaos. And you were building a brand. You took my child from me, he said quietly. You built that brand over a lie. I built it over sacrifice, she hissed. Yours, mine, everyone's. Carter turned toward the door. Then I'm done with the foundation you laid. Carter, don't be a fool. I'm a father now. That changes everything. He left her standing in the doorway, voice trembling, mask cracked. The next day, Carter met Julia at the workshop site. Chloe danced around the space with her sketch pad while he pulled Julia aside. I found the email, he said. Her breath caught. The one I sent? He shook his head. The one my mother pretended you sent. She faked it. She deleted yours. Julia closed her eyes, lips trembling. All those years. I'm so sorry, Carter whispered. I begged her to let me speak to you, Julia said, tears gathering. She said you were done, that you knew everything. Carter reached into his coat pocket and pulled out the forged email. I printed it. It's a lie in black and white. Julia took it with shaking hands. I knew she hated me, but I never imagined this. She didn't just keep me from you, Carter added. She kept me from her. They both turned to watch Chloe laughing, twirling a roll of pink ribbon in the sun. Julia wiped her face. What now? We tell her, Carter said. The truth, slowly, together. Julia nodded. And your company? He smiled faintly. Let them wait. This is the only legacy that matters. That evening, Carter invited Chloe into his apartment for the first time. She wandered around wide-eyed. Whoa, is this your house or a hotel? A little of both, he chuckled. He opened a drawer and pulled out a small flat box. Inside was a delicate silver pin, 2 hands holding a thread. This was my grandmother's, he said. She used it in her first sewing class. I want you to have it. Chloe touched it gently. Is it magic? He smiled. It helps you stitch things back together. She looked up at him. Like us? His voice cracked. Yeah, just like us. She leaned into his arms, the pin still in her hand. And for the first time in years, Carter felt something solid inside him click into place. Something real. Something true. The workshop opened under a sky streaked with gold. Rows of windows glowed as light spilled across freshly painted lavender walls. A chalkboard at the entrance read, The Ribbon Room, scrawled in Chloe's looping handwriting. Inside, Carter adjusted the height of a sewing table while Chloe unpacked spools of thread. Dad, we need a snack zone, she declared. He paused mid-level. A snack zone? Crafting burns calories, she said with a grin. Gummy bears increase creativity. He chuckled. Noted. Julia arrived moments later, arms full of donated fabric. She paused in the doorway, watching the two of them laugh. There was a rhythm forming between them, soft and natural. Carter turned to her. Everything's almost ready. Julia nodded. It looks incredible. They moved together, organizing ribbons, labeling bins, arranging little stations where children could design their own scrunchies, bows, and bracelets. In the center of the room, Carter placed a glass case. Inside, the silver pin Chloe had once called Magic rested on a velvet cushion. Next to it, her framed thread family drawing. He turned to Julia. I skipped the fall line preview for this. Julia blinked. You really didn't go? He shook his head. Let them wonder why. Let them wait. She studied him. This? She gestured to the workshop. This is legacy, Carter. That afternoon, children flooded the room. Some from shelters, some from schools nearby. Chloe ran mini tutorials while Julia tied loose ponytails. Carter hovered, quiet, adjusting stations, restocking supplies, handing out juice boxes, a different kind of runway. As the sun dipped, Chloe tugged on his sleeve. I made something, she said, leading him to a corner table. There, nestled on a piece of felt, was a scrunchie woven in pale blue and deep coral. It shimmered faintly under the warm light. She held it out. It's called Forgive Me Thread. Carter's chest tightened. It's beautiful. She tied it gently around his wrist. You missed a lot of years, but you're here now. He hugged her, fiercely, quietly. And I'm not going anywhere. Just then, a knock echoed at the door. Julia opened it. Diane stood in the hallway, heels silent on the concrete. May I come in? Carter approached, blocking her view of the others. Why are you here? I heard what you've done. I saw the press release. So you came to spin it? She shook her head. No, I came because I was wrong. That caught him off guard. Diane looked past him, eyes landing on Chloe, who was teaching a girl to loop ribbon into a bow. She looks like you did when you were 10, she said quietly. Bright, unfiltered. Julia approached slowly, standing beside Carter. The triangle was tense. I can't undo what I did, Diane added, but I'd like to help, quietly. Carter studied her. Help? How? Funding. Supplies. No name attached. Just contribution. Julia's voice was calm. Why now? Diane looked at her. Because I lost 10 years of knowing her, and I can't stomach losing more. Silence settled. Then Carter nodded, on one condition. Diane tilted her head. You sit in the back, he said. No control, no press, no spotlight. She nodded once. Agreed. Later, as Chloe gathered the leftover ribbons, she found Carter sitting on the floor beside a stack of drawings from the kids. She dropped next to him. Tired? He smiled. Happy tired? She handed him a note folded into a star. Inside, thank you for making room for people like me. Chloe leaned her head on his shoulder. You made this, she said. Not the thread, the space. Carter looked around the room. The chalk-covered walls, the laughter, the scraps of fabric stitched with love. And for the first time in his life, he didn't feel alone in his own creation. He felt woven in, anchored, like family. The sun peeked over the edge of the chalkboard wall at the ribbon room, casting golden light across the scraps of fabric and bright laughter already blooming inside. It was quiet before the doors opened, just Carter and Chloe at the front table. She held something behind her back, trying and failing to suppress a grin. You're acting suspicious, Carter said, sipping coffee. Chloe giggled. Close your eyes. He set the cup down and obeyed. Something soft looped around his wrist. Okay, open. He looked down. A new hair tie, woven in the threads of burnt orange, cream, and soft sky blue, tied delicately, precise. He swallowed. "Did you make this?" Chloe nodded. "It's called Start Again." He ran his fingers over the tiny stitching. "Why those colors?" "Because orange is like the sunsets you missed. Cream is soft like second chances. And blue? That's for me." His voice caught. "It's perfect." She whispered, "Now we match." Across the room, Julia watched. A soft smile lifted her lips, but something behind her eyes trembled, like she still didn't fully believe this was real. Later that day, Carter found her alone at the paint sink, rinsing brushes. He leaned beside her. "She's got your hands." Julia smirked. "She's got your stubborn streak." Carter exhaled. "I know I missed too much." Julia looked up. "You're here now. That's not nothing." He paused. "Do you think we could start again too?" She dried her hands. "You mean us?" He nodded. Slowly, like Chloe's stitches. Her eyes searched his, gentle but wary. "I'm not the same girl you left. I'm stronger, more cautious." "I'm not the same guy either," he said. "I used to think success was silence. Now, I think it's showing up when it counts." She looked down at the hair tie around his wrist. "She gave you one?" He smiled. "She called it Start Again. Fits, don't you think?" Julia laughed once, the tension softening. "It really does." Outside, the street buzzed with energy. The news of the ribbon room had spread. Small articles, a local TV segment, a surge of donations. Kids poured in each afternoon, stitching their own paths. But inside, it was quieter, more sacred. That evening, after the last child left, Carter found Chloe sketching in the corner. "Working on a new line?" he asked. She nodded. "I want to make a dad series, hair ties with names like Steady Hands, Loyal Loop, and No Matter What Thread." He swallowed hard. "You're really something, you know that?" Chloe shrugged. "I just make stuff." He knelt beside her. "No, you build stuff. With your hands, with your heart." She leaned into him. "You're better than I imagined." He held her close. "You're better than I deserve." From the wall above, her framed thread family picture watched over them like a quiet vow. That night, as they walked Julia to her car, Chloe held both their hands. At the curb, Julia turned to Carter. "Do you want to come by for dinner this weekend?" He blinked. "You mean it?" She smiled. "Just don't burn the garlic bread." Chloe laughed. "He burns toast, Mom. We'll keep it simple." As the car pulled away, Chloe looked up at him. "Are you happy, Dad?" He knelt down. "I built skyscrapers, worn suits worth more than my first apartment. But this?" He tapped the scrunchie around his wrist. "This is the first thing that ever felt like home." The next morning, Carter stood in front of the mirror in his atelier office. His designer cufflinks lay untouched beside a folded navy suit, but it was the scrunchie around his wrist, woven in blue, orange, and cream, that held his attention. He turned slightly, catching his reflection from another angle. It didn't look out of place. It looked earned. He walked past his assistant, ignoring the emails marked urgent, and stepped into the elevator. He wasn't headed to a board meeting or a photo shoot. He was headed back to the ribbon room. Inside, Chloe was already working. Her tiny fingers looped a glitter thread through a wide yellow band, lips pursed in concentration. Next to her was a chalkboard titled, "My Dad's Designs." Beneath it, scrunchies labeled "Evening Calm," "Never Late," and "Hold Me Together." Carter blinked fast. "Those mine?" Chloe grinned. "Inspired by you. Want to try one?" He sat beside her. "You'll need to teach me." "You sure? Your hands look corporate." He laughed. "They've stitched a few broken things lately." Julia arrived minutes later with bagels and a question in her eyes. "You're skipping another launch?" He shrugged. "It's just fashion. This is family." She handed him a coffee. "It's more than that. It's healing." Later that afternoon, a teen boy named Marcus walked in alone. Quiet, eyes heavy. Chloe greeted him gently. "Want to try making something?" He shook his head. Carter stepped over. "I used to think I didn't belong in rooms like this either." Marcus looked up. "You're Carter Lane, right?" "Yeah," Carter said. "But in here, I'm just Chloe's dad. And a student." Marcus hesitated. "I'm not good with people." "You don't have to be," Carter replied. "Just start with thread." They sat together, stitching in silence. Thread by thread, loop by loop, something invisible mended between them. As the sun dipped, Carter took Chloe to the back storage closet. He opened a slim drawer labeled Chloe's Firsts. Inside were scraps of every fabric she'd used, organized by date. Tucked neatly in the middle was the first hair tie she ever gave him. He pulled it out gently. "You kept it?" she asked. "Of course," he said. "This is where everything changed." She touched the frayed edge. "It's coming apart." He looked at her, then smiled. "Let's fix it. Together." She nodded, eyes shining. They sat on the floor and began to rethread it, side by side. Julia walked in quietly, leaning against the doorway, watching the two of them stitch. Carter looked up. "Want to help?" She walked over, knelt beside them, and picked up the coral thread. That simple hair tie, touched by 3 sets of hands, became a circle again, a symbol of what was broken, and now whole. That night, as they turned out the lights, Chloe asked Carter, "Will you wear it forever?" He looked down at the small band, wobbly, uneven, but full of love. "I'll wear it longer than that," he said. "I'll live by it." Outside, a neon sign flickered over the shop window. The Ribbon Room. But beneath it, hand-painted by Chloe in looping white strokes, were 5 words. Thread by thread, we heal. Carter sat alone in his atelier late that night. The city lights flickered below, but his focus was locked on a screen, an old email folder Diane thought he'd forgotten. He clicked open a draft labeled Julia, Final. Inside was a message. Never sent. "Carter, I wish you'd reconsider. I'm not asking for anything, just to tell you about the child. She's yours, and she's beautiful." His chest tightened. The timestamp was from 10 years ago. But it was marked unread. He checked the metadata. It hadn't come from Julia. It came from Diane's login. Same timestamp, same header. He froze. Diane hadn't intercepted the email. She had written it, to herself. He leaned back, heart pounding. "You never even gave her the chance." His hand trembled as he scrolled deeper. Dozens of deleted messages, all from Julia. None read. One subject line caught his breath. "She has your eyes." The next morning, he walked into Diane's Pasadena home without knocking. She stood in the sunroom, trimming roses. "You knew," he said. She didn't turn. "I knew a distraction when I saw one." Carter stepped closer. "You forged an email, stole my future, and erased a child." Diane placed the shears down. "I preserved your legacy," he scoffed. "You destroyed part of it." She turned finally, eyes cold. "She would have ruined you." "No, she saved me." Diane folded her arms. "So, what now? Public scandal? You want to punish me?" He looked at her for a long moment. "No, I want you out of my company." That made her flinch. "I've filed with the board," he said. "Effective immediately. Your advisory position is revoked. You'll keep your shares, but not your control." Her voice cracked. "You're making a mistake." He stepped back. "I made one 10 years ago. I'm not repeating it." Later that day, Carter returned to the Ribbon Room. Julia was rearranging bins. Chloe was drawing on the floor, tongue poking out in concentration. He knelt beside her. "What you making?" "A new hair tie pattern. she said. It's called Truth Thread. Want to see? He nodded. She held up a spiral sketch of loops twisting inward, then bursting outward in bright, chaotic colors. He smiled. It's messy. She grinned. Like families. He looked over at Julia, who was watching them quietly. Can I talk to your mom for a sec? Chloe nodded. Sure, but don't be weird. They stepped into the back storage area. I need to tell you something, Carter said. Julia raised a brow. That sounds serious. He inhaled. I know why you disappeared. Why the letters stopped. Why you thought I didn't care. Julia's breath hitched. What? My mother, he said. She blocked everything. She forged an email to look like it came from you. Made it seem like you didn't want me in Chloe's life. Julia's eyes filled. She lied? He nodded. I'm so sorry. She leaned against the shelf, blinking fast. I thought you abandoned us. I never even knew, Carter whispered, but I'm here now, and I'll fight to stay. She looked at him, really looked, then stepped forward and pulled him into a long, quiet hug. When they broke apart, Chloe peeked in. Everything okay? Carter smiled. Better than okay. She ran over and held up a thread bracelet. I made one more. What's it called? He asked. Chloe smiled wide. It's called Found. And Carter, for the first time in years, felt whole. The old shoe factory off Melrose had been abandoned for years. Cracked bricks, weeds curling through pavement. But Carter stood at the gate now, blueprints in hand, Chloe at his side. It smells like dust and dreams, Chloe said, wrinkling her nose. He smiled. Then let's make it smell like glue and glitter. The next 6 weeks were a blur of sawdust, scaffolding, and laughter. Carter poured his resources and heart into transforming the warehouse into a creative haven. Threadline market, booths, were built from reclaimed wood. Skylights let sun pour onto long crafting tables. There was a bead corner, a fabric wall, and a cozy stage for weekend showcases. But the centerpiece was the Youth Creators Circle, 10 tables reserved for young artisans to sell, teach, and shine. On opening day, Chloe wore her best yellow jumper and a new ribbon in her hair, one she designed herself, called Golden Start. Dad, she called from her booth, look, all 5 sold already. Carter walked over, holding 2 lemonades. Guess you'll need to raise your prices, she grinned. Not till I've helped all the kids here. Nearby, a boy named Elijah was threading beads beside his grandmother. Across from him, twins from East L.A. displayed hand-painted barrettes. And at the far end, a quiet girl named Nia nervously handed a stranger her first handmade bracelet. Julia joined Carter at the overlook above the crowd, watching it pulse with energy and color. This is bigger than fashion, she whispered. He nodded. This is legacy. She looked at him. You did this? No, he said, eyes softening. We did. She took his hand. On a side table rested a single framed item, Chloe's original sketch of her first hair tie, Hold Me Together. Under it, Carter had added a plaque. From one thread, a world can be woven. That evening, a local reporter asked Carter for a quote. He thought a second, then said, Fashion taught me how to style fabric. My daughter taught me how to honor it. Will this be permanent? The reporter asked. Carter looked out over the market, kids laughing, parents clapping, colors everywhere. Yes, he said, this space belongs to them now. Back at Chloe's booth, a girl named Jasmine asked nervously, Do you think people will buy mine? Chloe leaned over. Of course. Just tell them why you made it. Jasmine pointed to a pink and silver tie. This one's for my mom. She works night shifts. Chloe nodded solemnly. Then it's already special. Later, Julia watched Chloe help a boy with a hot glue gun. She's braver than I ever was at her age. Carter looked over. She's stronger than I am now. Julia chuckled. She's both of us, woven tighter. As the sun set, lights strung from the beams glowed warm across the market. The sound of a guitar drifted from the stage. Laughter echoed off the factory walls that once held silence. And in the center, Chloe stood, arms raised, showing a crowd how to braid 3 ribbons into one. "This one's called Family Twist," she beamed. "It starts with 3, but it finishes as 1. Carter caught Julia's gaze. "She's teaching them more than crafts," she said. He nodded. "She's teaching them how to mend." Above them, a banner fluttered. Threadline Market, where every stitch has a story. And beneath it, families stitched a new one, together. The sky over the fair sparkled with string lights and laughter. Vendors lined the walkways, children ran with handmade crafts, and music played softly from a small bandstand. The Threadline Market anniversary had drawn a crowd, but for Carter, only 2 people mattered. Julia stood behind a booth filled with color-coded kits, ribbons, beads, even tiny scissors for beginners. She wore her hair in a loose bun, her sleeves rolled up, eyes focused. Carter watched her fingers move, confident, gentle, no longer guarded. Next to her, Chloe stood on a wooden crate, helping a group of kids twist bright threads into loops. "Okay," Chloe grinned. "1 loop, 1 pull, 1 memory." She turned to Carter. "Dad, can you help tie the ends?" He stepped forward, knees brushing the table edge, and took the red ribbon. His fingers shook slightly. Chloe whispered, "It's okay. Just like we practiced." He smiled. "Right. Just like we practiced." Their hands moved in unison, wrapping the thread around a gold ring. Together, they formed a braid. It wasn't perfect, but it held. That was enough. From the side, Julia watched, her hand pressed lightly to her chest. She exhaled, then moved closer. "Carter," she said softly, "I never thought we'd be here." He glanced up. "Neither did I, but I'm glad we are." She smiled. "You've changed." He looked toward Chloe. "She changed me." A group of parents passed by, admiring the booth. One paused. "Are these handmade by kids?" Chloe piped up, "By families, even mine." Julia blushed but didn't correct her. Carter said nothing, just squeezed Julia's hand. Later that evening, as the crowd thinned, Carter, Julia, and Chloe sat on a blanket behind the booth. A small box rested in Chloe's lap. She opened it, revealing 3 hair ties, braided in matching colors: deep navy, bright yellow, soft cream. "I made these for us," she said. "One for Mom, one for Dad, one for me. So we're tied together, even when we're not in the same place." Julia's throat tightened. "Chloe." Chloe handed them out like precious treasure. Carter took his and stared at it, the threads woven carefully. "You call this one anything?" Chloe nodded. "It's called Found." Julia wiped her eyes. "You really named it that?" Chloe grinned. "I did. Because I found you." They sat in silence, the air warm, the market slowly dimming. From the distance, Diane stood near the exit gate. She wore dark sunglasses, lips pressed tight. She watched the trio, unmoving. A hair tie rested in her palm, the one Chloe had quietly handed her earlier that day. She didn't walk forward, but she didn't drop it either. Back on the blanket, Chloe leaned her head on Carter's arm. "I used to dream of this," she whispered. Carter kissed her hair. "Me too." Julia looked at them both, then at the handmade tie in her hand. "Maybe it's time," she said softly. Carter turned. "Time for what?" She smiled faintly. "Time to start again." The lights above them flickered. The music faded, and all around, laughter gave way to hush. Carter stood, reached for Julia's hand, then held Chloe's. "Ready to go home?" he asked. Chloe nodded. Julia whispered, "Yeah, let's go home." They walked through the fair together, 3 threads, woven tight. And behind them their booth remained lit, a soft glow surrounding the words carved into its wooden sign. Tie what matters. Hold what heals.